6 days. 6 straight days of American bombs falling on Iranian soil. And tonight the target list just changed forever. Forget the missile depots. Forget the radar stations. The United States just told Iran on live television that the lights are next. The power plants, the bridges, the actual infrastructure that keeps 20 million people fed, warm, and connected. All of it now sitting on a countdown clock. And that countdown starts next week. 3 words did this. 3 words from the President of the United States. Spoken directly to camera, no diplomatic softening, no hedging. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why those 3 words might be the most consequential things said in this entire war so far. So don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to walk you through changes how you should be reading everything that happens in the Middle East over the next 7 days. This is Global Brief. And here's the deal. I'm not here to just read you headlines you already saw on your phone this morning. I'm here to show you the difference between what's being claimed and what's actually confirmed. Because right now, that gap is the entire war. If that's useful to you, subscribe, turn on notifications, because I promise you, this story is not slowing down. Drop your city below too. I like knowing who's actually watching this unfold with me in real time. Now, let's get into what actually happened, because it's bigger than one strike. Early Wednesday morning, in the dark, U.S. Central Command hit Greater Tumb Island with a 90-minute strike wave. Small island, massive strategic weight. It sits right at the western mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, and for years, Iran's Revolutionary Guard used it as a forward operating base. Cruise missiles stored and ready, launch sites armed, positioned to hit any ship that dared move through the strait without permission. CENTCOM says the strikes tore through coastal defense systems and missile storage sites directly. And this wasn't an isolated hit. This was day 5 of a campaign that has been escalating night after night for over a week. So rewind with me 7 days, because this is where it actually starts. Iran's forces began attacking commercial ships in the strait. Not warships, cargo vessels, oil tankers, ordinary sailors just trying to move goods through international waters. And over 7 days, 7 ships got hit. Nearly a dozen civilian crew members killed, wounded, or missing, including a confirmed Indian national aboard a tanker operated by the UAE's national oil company. That is the line that got crossed. Deliberately endangering civilian shipping is one of the clearest violations there is under international law. And it's exactly what pulled the United States back into this with full force. The response was immediate and it was heavy. A naval blockade went back up around key parts of the strait. Destroyers moved into position. 2 full carrier strike groups already sitting in the region went active. Fighter jets increased their tempo night after night. And for the first time in this entire conflict, one-way attack drones went into live combat, striking with precision while keeping American pilots out of the kill zone entirely. And then, in the middle of all of it, came the moment that actually changed the shape of this war. Not a strike, an interview. President Trump on Fox News laid it out with zero ambiguity. Hit them hard tonight. Hit them hard tomorrow night. Hit them hard the night after that. And then next week, it gets really bad for them, because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. Sit with that for a second. That's not about shipping lanes anymore. That is a direct threat against the basic infrastructure an entire population depends on to survive day to day. And this isn't some empty television threat either. CENTCOM has already confirmed at least 1 bridge has already been hit. There are also unverified reports of a commercial ship found sunk near Bandar Abbas. And I'm going to be straight with you. Nobody has officially confirmed how that happened or who's responsible. I'm not going to sit here and manufacture certainty where there isn't any. That one stays in the unconfirmed pile for now. Here's what almost nobody is explaining to you. And it's the part that actually tells you what's coming. What happened at Greater Tumb Island wasn't one attack. It was a machine built in stages, where every stage exists to make the next one possible. Stage 1 is the part the public basically never sees, and it might be the most dangerous job in the entire operation. Suppression of enemy air defense. Before a single bomb drops, someone has to deal with the threat of getting shot out of the sky first, and that job falls to specialized aircraft built exactly for this purpose. Their job, bluntly, is to fly straight into the most heavily defended airspace and deliberately pull the attention of enemy radar and missile systems. In plain terms, they're the bait. The second an Iranian radar system powers up to lock onto them, it also gives away its exact location, permanently. There's no taking that back. And that's the trigger for Stage 2. Missiles built specifically to home in on radar signals. Fired the instant the system lights up. No human guidance needed once they're airborne. They just ride the signal straight back to the source. Within moments, that radar system and everything it was protecting goes dark. With the path clear, the heavy aircraft move in, carrying precision-guided munitions built to punch straight through hardened structures. And these are not bulk weapons dropped and hope for the best. Each one is aimed at one specific point on one specific building. A missile bunker, a launch site, coastal defense equipment. And here's the detail that should actually worry you if you're thinking about what's next. Missile sites, launch sites, and now potentially power stations and bridges all share the exact same trait. They don't move. A ship can relocate. A mobile launcher can vanish into a coastline overnight. A power plant cannot. It sits exactly where it is, permanently. And once its coordinates are known and its defenses are down, hitting it stops being a matter of luck and becomes purely a matter of timing. Underneath all of it, the entire time, a third layer runs quietly. Surveillance aircraft building a live picture of the battlefield, while electronic warfare planes jam Iranian communications and radar. So Iranian command centers are left staring at static, while American commanders are working with complete, real-time picture. That combination right there is exactly why officials can talk about next week with this level of confidence. When you can reliably strip defenses, hit fixed targets with precision, and see the entire battlefield clearly the whole time, expanding the target list of power stations and bridges stops being a question of whether they can. It becomes purely a question of whether they will. Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because the gap between what's being claimed and what's actually confirmed is enormous. Iranian state media is claiming multiple American aircraft shot down, including F-35 stealth fighters, and claiming successful strikes near U.S. Fifth Fleet facilities in Bahrain. Read that on its own and it sounds like a real fight, maybe even one tilting Iran's way. CENTCOM's answer to that, on the record, is blunt. 0 confirmed aircraft losses. No pause in operations, not for a single day, since this campaign began. On the water, it's the same story. U.S. officials say well over 60 Iranian vessels have been sunk or disabled, including an entire class of Iranian warships wiped from aboard, while Iranian officials keep insisting their navy remains fully intact and capable. That gap isn't just a footnote. It tells you something real about whether either side is actually preparing to sit down and negotiate honestly, or whether one side is simply managing what its own public gets to hear. And with a huge chunk of Iran's conventional naval power degraded, attention is shifting toward what's left standing. Fast attack boats that can hide along the coastline and strike before vanishing again, and mobile missile systems that can be hidden, launched with almost no warning, and relocated before anyone can find them. That is a shift toward exactly the kind of unpredictable, asymmetric warfare that's much harder to counter, and it's worth understanding now, because it's very likely what Phase 2 of this looks like. And here's the piece of this whole story that isn't a weapon at all, and honestly might matter more than anything I've told you so far. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper made one statement this week that is quietly doing more work than any single airstrike. He said on the record that Iran had intentionally targeted civilians, pointing straight at the 7 commercial ships and the casualties among their crews. That single word, intentionally, is not an accident, and it's not throwaway language. Under international law, there's a massive legal gap between a military accidentally harming civilians in the chaos of conflict and military deliberately targeting them. The first gets treated, uncomfortably, as the cost of war. The second is treated as a far more serious violation, the kind that can justify a much harder international response. So when Cooper chooses that word publicly, he's not just narrating what happened. He's building a record, one meant to hold up under scrutiny from allied governments, international shipping partners, and global institutions who are all watching this closely. And that matters, because even the most powerful military on earth needs partners standing behind it. And those partners need a justification. They can point to publicly without looking like they just picked a side in someone else's war. A story about a nation defending itself in a vague maritime dispute is a hard sell. A story about a nation deliberately killing civilian sailors doing their jobs is not. The second version builds a rock-solid foundation for continued strikes, expanded blockades, and sustained political pressure. So if this campaign does expand into power plants and bridges, exactly like the president said on camera, the justification is already sitting there in the public record, built and ready. Iran was warned. Iran had the chance to negotiate. Iran kept targeting civilians instead. So where does this actually go? Based on everything confirmed right now, there are three real paths in front of us. 1. A slow, controlled escalation. Strikes expanding gradually, while the door to negotiation technically stays open. 2. A complete collapse of any diplomatic path, meaning a much wider campaign against Iran's infrastructure. And I want you to actually sit with what that means, because it's not abstract. That means millions of ordinary Iranian civilians, people with zero say in any of these decisions, losing power and transportation infrastructure they depend on to survive. 3. And based on everything we're seeing, this one currently looks like the longest shot. Iran's leadership actually reads a room, understands the scale of what's coming, and moves toward real negotiation before it gets worse. Whatever happens, understand this. This war stopped being fought only with missiles and warships days ago. It's being fought just as hard with word choice, legal framing, and public statements engineered to control how the entire world understands what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. So the real question isn't just what gets hit next. It's whether Iran changes course before the warning that already aired on national television becomes the next confirmed headline. I'll be back the second this moves. And at the pace this is going, it's going to move fast. If you want a version of this story that's separate confirmed from claimed, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.